Hi there, Jan. Let's take a look at your new essays for us today. Okay, let's see what you wrote here in this job application. Dear Mr. Fiedler, I hope this letter finds you well. I'm writing regarding the new research position at our Artificial Intelligence Department mentioned in the company's newsletter from last week. As you know, my current part-time internship position expires in September. Hopefully, I will have finished all my PhD examinations by then, and I will start looking for a full-time job. Therefore, I would be more than happy if I could start my career in this company. Because I am graduating in the machine learning area, I am confident that I would be a perfect fit for this job. On this occasion, I would like to remind you of the successful project for Continental, which we finished a month ago. My task in this important project was not only the technical design, but also communication with the customer and analysis of the requirements. Furthermore, I can use my soft skills and teaching experience, which I gained during my studies, to train junior. You didn't need all these commas here. Get rid of this. The commas basically act like a speed bump here. They don't really help meaning. So when that's the case, you can get rid of them. In other words, if you don't need to pause in order to understand, it's okay to not use them. So this is how I would have read it without the commas. Furthermore, I can use my soft skills and teaching experience, which I gained during my studies, to train junior engineers and new interns. You see, here I do need to pause, but here I don't, and I don't need to pause here either. Because I'm careful, we don't want to start sentences with because. Is it tragic? No. But is IELTS an exam that really pays attention to details? Yes. So try not to start with words like because. Because, and but, you want to avoid starting sentence with. You could have said instead since, so that would have been good. Since I am sure that our department will increasingly grow in the next years, I can imagine applying these skills in a potential team leader's role. Yet, of course, first things first. Now, I already told you, no but to begin a sentence. However, I do feel that this sentence is a little conversational. It does kind of sway from a very professional kind of cover letter. So I would have avoided this sentence. There were other more formal ways of saying the same general kind of thing. So let's read this sentence again, and then we'll see if maybe I can come up with some other alternatives for it. Since I am sure that our department will increasingly grow in the next years, I can imagine applying these skills in a potential team leader's role. However, this of course is something for the future, and for now I would like to begin my career with a full-time role in the company. Okay, something like that would have been okay. All right, so for all these reasons, I would be honored if you could consider me as a candidate for this position. Please do not hesitate to contact my supervisor, Martin, for additional references and details regarding my current and previous projects in this company. P.S. I have attached my PhD thesis on the topic of the latest object tracking algorithms, which you might find interesting and relevant for this track, perhaps, I don't know, maybe. Sincerely, Jan. Okay, I love this. Hey, I'd interview you. I thought it was very good. I really do. It's lovely. I mean, there were a few things that made it definitely feel very higher level, like this. I loved this on this occasion. That's great. And then what else did I really like? There were a couple of areas. I can use my soft skills. That's lovely. I can imagine applying these skills in a potential team leader's role. That was lovely. Do not hesitate to contact my supervisor for, that was good. I mean, so a lot of these really nice expressions, they felt very natural, very appropriate, very, very exactly what they need to be for this kind of letter. So I really, really, really enjoyed this. I thought you did a great job. Like I said, it was convincing, and I would interview you. I'd say, hey, you know what? Let's give this person a shot. So great. I no other comments than the other little pesky kind of grammatical, lexical things that I already mentioned. Little things about tone. Be careful with this kind of thing and this kind of thing. Okay. It's detail stuff, and you'll probably notice that in written English we do it all the time, even in like respectable online news agencies and so forth. I see it all the time. However, I want you to be a little conservative as far as IELTS goes and try to avoid this kind of thing, okay? All right, so with that, let's go on to your essay. All right, here we need to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of online communication versus face-to-face communication. Let's see what you had to say about that. Professionals throughout both the commercial and academic world have debated the increasing trend in using internet applications for meetings and conferences. Some believe that the benefits of today's online technologies are indisputable and allow replacing most in-person business events, as there are no further benefits of live meetings. This essay will discuss why I agree with this opinion, using examples from UK government research and German Department of Communication study, and a German Department of Communication study. You probably should have capitalized Department in Communication to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, fine. Okay, you're not only going to discuss why you agree with this opinion, you're supposed to discuss both, okay? Because they want you to discuss the advantages if they outweigh them, but the implication here is that you're supposed to talk about both. So I hope you did that. It would have been probably better to say that you're going to talk about both. I mean, yes, you can say this essay will discuss both views and express why I agree with the opinion that blah, blah, blah. Okay? Or some sort of variation of that. Let's move on. On the one hand, there is ample evidence that traveling thousands of miles to visit a conference is significantly inefficient. I like inefficient. I'm not crazy about significantly. It's the kind of word that doesn't really require a word like significantly. You could have just said is inefficient. The central reason behind this is twofold. Firstly, the traveling individual must spend several hours on a plane or train. These hours, when an employee is resting, sleeping, or experiencing jet lag, is accounted into paid working time, which is economically inefficient. Secondly, continental and overseas business trips generate a higher amount of air pollution. For example, recent empirical research by the UK government demonstrated that 90% of all overseas flights are business-oriented. Furthermore, according to the study, 80% of surveyed managers admitted that face-to-face meetings are often unnecessary, and Skype meetings would lead to the same results. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that video calls can replace most business trips. This would save companies and universities monies, as well as reduce the ecological load created by planes and trains. Lovely, 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 lovely. No comments at all. It's exactly what it should be. On the other hand, although some people argue that live meetings, S and R, more natural and communication software like Skype is unreliable, the progress in internet technologies cannot be ignored. The internet speed and availability have been tremendously increased over the last decades. For example, an extensive study by the German Department of Communication showed that over 96% of the Western world is covered by high-speed internet. Consistent with this statement is that there is almost no delay in voice and image transmission during today's video calls, which allows smooth and natural long-distance communication. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that modern technologies almost vanished the gap between live and online communication. Okay. Here you ran into a problem, not because of the language you used, but because of task achievement. Remember what I told you in the beginning. The implication here is that you're supposed to talk about both. All right? So in other words, even if the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, you're supposed to talk about those disadvantages. You didn't really. You only gave them one little sentence here, and that's clearly not enough. If you look at task response in band 6, for task 2, it says that all areas are covered, but some are covered more fully than others. And that's really what you did here. Giving one little sentence to the negatives of this trend is just not enough. You should have had a whole paragraph about it. Okay? And what you should have done then was you should have talked about that paragraph first. It could have been your concession paragraph. Then you could have talked about why you are so in favor of this. And that would have really led to a nice logical conclusion where you could say, you know, after all things are considered, it is clear that the advantages of online communication are far stronger than any disadvantages this type of technology may have. Okay? So that's what you needed to do here. And it's kind of like the subtle thing that they're talking about. Otherwise, they would say, to what extent is this positive, or um, I don't know. They would have just made it more one-sided, but they do expect you to talk about both advantages and disadvantages here, okay? Fully. So while I love what you wrote, I thought the language was great. You saw I had nothing negative to say about this paragraph at all. And even this paragraph, it was very well written. It just wasn't what you needed. So again, what I would have done here is I would have talked about disadvantages here. What could some potential disadvantages of this be? And there are tons of things you could say, like you talked about conferences, for example. Okay, great. But a lot of the stuff that happens at conferences is not just about work, but it's about interpersonal communication. It's about the relationships that are created, not just when one is talking about work, but when one is talking about, just about anything, life, the weather, travel, what have you. So, this is where work relationships are created, and that's really vital when you're working in the professional world. So there's something to be said about that, and to creating relationships with people that you work with. And so there is some value to this face-to-face communication. This kind of thing cannot really be replicated in an online setting. Even if you do have Zoom or Skype meetings, it's very unlikely that you're going to break bread with some random colleague, thousands of miles away. So that was one thing that you could have explored here, okay, that there is this disadvantage and why there is some validity to this whole idea of face-to-face meetings and so forth. Okay, so just to give you some ideas about this. But again, your light writing is very high level. I'm really happy. It's a pleasure to read. But just you need to work on interpreting these tasks, these prompts, what the prompts that you're being given, and understand what is being implied and what you have to include in your writing. Okay, go ahead, correct these, and can't wait to see more. Good luck.